Dr. Hani Elkadi is a true Renaissance man, physician, graphic artist, teacher, political commentator, humanitarian, and citoyen du monde. Welcome, Dr. Elkadi.
You forgot the previous dancer, too.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, talking with somebody like you, I feel like a cat in a tripe shop. I just don't know where to begin. You have made yourself a part of a great many causes over the past few years, both local and international. And here in Iowa City, at least, you're known as one of the most knowledgeable and outspoken commentators on the political situation in the Middle East. And you're well known as one of Iowa City's finest painters, artists, instructor in art, and you're a medical doctor. My gosh, where do we begin? But let's start by talking about your expertise on the Middle East. That has largely to do with your family background. Can you tell me a little about your ancestors, where you came from, and so on, and how that got you interested in the situation in the Middle East?
Let me begin by saying how privileged I feel that I am in your company and your director, Mr. Yael Cohen, because you both are big stars in this community. And in the meantime, I would like to use the chance or seize this opportunity to welcome back Mr. Yael Cohen from Chicago, that we won him back. He's a great asset in our community. And from there, I will move to my ancestors. Well, I am as confused as anyone that can hear my story, because I have a very mixed origin, let us say. They joined together with love early on. He met her on a train trip, and he fell in love with her. He gave her his card, and she called him, and they began the story. But then they discovered that they are two different people. And then they moved from Turkey to Egypt, and from Egypt, the war broke, and then we moved to other places in the Middle East. And we lived between Syria, Cyprus, Greece, and eventually ended up in Italy, learning art and all that.
So it would be less accurate to say that you belong to any nation than it would be to say that you're more or less a Mediterranean person.
You see, that's part of maybe, Joseph, you are trying to touch a very sensitive string in my whole life, and that is, I have never felt that I have an identity, because among the Egyptians I was Turkish, and among the Christians, you name it, you know,
right.
Everybody says something different, you know. So I don't know. I mean, I lived in Italy as a young man, and I consider myself an Iowan, to be honest. This is the only place where I lived more than 30 years. I don't think I lived in any place more than 3 years. And here I already am my 35th year.
Oh my gosh.
In this town.
Okay, so
I am an Iowan. I am a native Iowan.
So you came here around 1980.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And what brought you here?
Joining the writers program here, the writing program, the International Writing Program, which is part of the writers' workshop. And I came here after I translated a lot of American theater and American poetry to various Middle East languages.
Okay. And you were also at that time, and still are, a qualified physician, correct?
You have done a good research here. Yes, I was. I don't know about qualified, because I mean, I would not describe myself as qualified. I was a surgeon, yeah. I was a surgeon.
Okay, and you practiced here in Iowa City?
I don't think I was like prominent in anything in my life, like so excellent in anything. I mean, I was kind of mediocre, you can say, and it's not bad to admit that. You know, I'm not saying I'm a genius surgeon and
Well,
I'm a genius writer.
A mediocre surgeon would be exactly who I want cutting me up.
You see, so I dealt with a lot of things in my life, but the only frustration I have that I wanted to be a musician or a dancer.
Okay.
And a musician because I believe in music so much. And I failed in this because I have been distracted by my interest in visual arts and in poetry and in writing and all that.
And you eventually, I believe, gave up your medical practice in order to concentrate on the visual arts, correct?
That's a good part of it, yes.
And now your art is seen all over Iowa City, surrounding communities, other places for all I know, and you made quite a name for yourself, didn't you, as a teacher of art?
Yes.
And you worked in several high schools and colleges around the Iowa City area over your career, isn't that right?
Including the University of Iowa, too, where I taught surgery and anatomy for many years.
So you taught surgery, anatomy, and art, and
humanities too.
And humanities. Did you teach the art of translation?
No, I would have loved to do that, but I don't know much about how to teach translation. I know that I translate, but I don't know the methodology of how to teach that.
Now, what's your philosophy towards translation? Would you consider it more an art or a science or a combination of both?
A combination of both.
Okay. And what
you are a translator.
I am indeed.
Educate me in this area. I mean,
well, you've probably done more of it than I have over the years. But what is your attitude? Do you regard your translations as original works, or do you try to remain as faithful as possible to the letter and the spirit of the original work?
It all depends. It all depends on the person, the writer of the. If I am dealing with somebody who is not living, I have to be literally obliged to translate word by word, and not give it a spirit, not add from myself into it. But if you do something and say, Hani, I would like you to translate this into Turkish or into Greek, and then I take it, and I know how to do that, for instance.
Right. So, and if I authorize you to take some liberties
so
with
I said, do you mind if I add something here, or I am going to change the style, or?
All right, that's interesting because you and I have exactly the same approach. If it's a dead author, stick to the text as faithfully as you can.
Right.
If it's a living one, you discuss it with the author.
Right.
You agree on what sorts of liberties can be taken.
Ethically, this is, I think, very, I would say, prudent.
Right.
Yeah.
And you seem to take an ethical approach to just about every one of your endeavors, and I suppose that just comes naturally considering your complicated background. But as a result of that, you have become one of the area's leading experts and most prominent spokesman on the situation in the Middle East. And I was wondering if you could oblige our viewers by giving as basic an explanation as you can, such as if you were speaking to an intelligent high school student. What is the situation in the Middle East? What does the conflict revolve around? Where is it now? And what are we likely to see happen over the next few years?
First of all, I would like to say something about people who analyze the situation in the Middle East. How do we judge their objectivity or subjectivity on another hand. People are influenced by a lot of factors. I, for instance, if I would like to say the truth about the Middle East with you right now, knowing that this program is tomorrow going to be on the internet, and I have a family living there, I'm just giving you an example. I have to be very careful because this family may pay the price of what I have said in Joseph Dobrian's show in Iowa City. And it did happen to me before. It did happen. I gave a lecture in the Lions Club in San Francisco, which granted me or honored me with Peace Award back in 1981. And I stood up in front of many, many audience to give a speech about the Middle East. And then when I left the United States back to the Middle East, I got arrested in the airport in Cairo.
Oh my gosh, on what charge?
My charge was destroying the reputation of Islam, talking negatively about people in the Middle East, you name it. And I didn't know that there were many, many reports that were written about my speech there. So unfortunately, there is a kind of sickness of how free you can elaborate on the situation. So I will give you a little synopsis, but put in mind that I can say to you more after Yelko turned the lights off and took the microphones away. First of all, I think there are a lot of foreign hands playing the games, the chess game in the Middle East. And good part of this is due, of course, to, about the oil, the resources, you name it. But in the meantime, there are a lot of selfish political and geopolitical and military reasons for that. And those powers are playing the games with the local people.
Uh-huh.
So the loyalty there is not really purely to Islam, it's not purely to Christianity, it's not purely to Hezbollah or to al-Nusra, Jabhat al-Nusra, or to Daesh or whatever. It is mainly where do you get the money from. And you can change your loyalty between yesterday and today once you get the good check from the other side.
Okay. Now, we have several different narratives going on in this country, at any rate, with regard to the situation in the Middle East. Some people would have us believe that the Palestinians are just perversely, willfully ignoring what benefits they could reap from working with the Israelis. On the other hand, you've got people saying that the Israeli government is expansionistic, imperialistic, wants to subjugate the Palestinians, and in any case, they are just tools of the United States. Is the truth somewhere in between those two, or is there a whole different truth that people are missing?
I think the issue of Israeli-Palestinian conflict is now secondary to a major conflict there. That's Islam versus Islam, Islam versus Christianity, Islam versus Judaism. This is the main title. Little conflicts there, Libyan conflicts, Egyptian, Sudanese conflict, Saudi-Yemeni conflict, Saudi-Iranian conflict, Palestinian-Israeli conflict, Turkish-Saudi conflict, alliance between Turkey and Qatar. All these things are subsidiary to the main issue there, that there is the Islamic Caliphate now is sweeping the whole Middle East, thanks to the help of the Americans.
Right. That
because
is-
we initiated that,
Right.
as you know, in order to topple Bashar al-Assad in Syria.
Right.
And he turned against us. And we created Gaddafi before, and he turned against us. And then we created Saddam,
Right.
and he attacked us.
Yes. And of course, one hears rumors that the Muslims are trying to establish a caliphate in Europe as well and in North America, particularly in the United States. Is there any substance to this kind of talk?
Well, the dream of regeneration of the Caliphate has always been over at least 2,000 years, the dream of any person that belongs to the faith. And the way to create this is by conviction or by sword. These are two schools. They are different. And some of them believe that the message can be conveyed better if we sit together and I convince you to join the faith. And others believe that I have to beat you up in order to join the faith.
Okay, but in any case, the end game is the conversion of the human race?
Well, it depends on, you have to understand that there are various Islamic interpretation. There is the Islam as the original Islam has been totally destroyed by a lot of offshoots and schools and various factions. But the Islam, as it was originally, it's a good religion. What happened, as a matter of fact, it has been used by many people in different ways. And they take part of the text and they build a whole philosophy around it. And one word, you don't complete the sentence.
Right. Now, this apparently almost universal hatred of Judaism amongst the large majority of Muslims, does that come pretty strictly just from the occupation of Israel, or is it an ages-old antipathy between Muslims and Jews?
All of the above. I think it has descended, of course, from the time of the Inquisition and the fake, what they call it, this document, they call it the Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
Right. That came out around the early 20th century, didn't it?
It has been, it has been written by people who are anti-Semitic, basically.
It was written by the Russian secret police under the Tsar, correct?
Exactly, in order to destroy the reputation of Jews in general. About this imaginary conference that happened in Basel, in Switzerland, and they are sitting there with their kibbah and the yarmulke and designing the whole map of the universe by killing the kids and doing this and doing that.
And this made a particularly strong impression in the Arab world, is that what you're saying?
That's, if you go to any Arab capital, you will find many books under the title of the true translation of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. And it's taught in schools in some countries.
Okay. And what can we as Americans do, if anything, to defuse this situation in the Middle East and maybe calm the conflict between the Islamic world, the Christian world, the Jewish world? Or is there nothing we can do at this point?
You stay away.
Okay.
Stay away. Because any foreign hand there will be, by the Islamic world, considered pro-Israel or pro-Judaism. Right. Even if it's not. I mean, America now is not pro-Israel, as you know. As you probably noticed. I mean, we...
less and less so anyway.
Yeah. I mean, we are now under this system with this government. We are more pro-Iranians and pro-Israel, definitely.
Right.
So a lot of people may differ with me about that, may write hundreds of letters to the editor tomorrow saying that's not true. But that is a fact. If you have lived in this area, you cannot trust this system.
Right.
So now you stay away, because once you enter there, you are making mistakes.
Okay.
Because we're not having enough knowledge. We don't know the little bits and pieces of the situation. We cannot understand who belongs where.
Okay.
And why.
But at the same time, there's a lot of concern, particularly amongst people who identify more with the political right, that we can't just stay away because we are being infiltrated in Europe and to a lesser extent now in North America, but it may become to a greater extent later on. People are concerned that a great Islamic influx into what has been traditionally Christian areas will cause tremendous strife in coming generations. Do you think that's a concern?
I cannot say that I have enough knowledge to support or to reject the idea. I mean, I know that there is a responsibility now from the whole world to absorb those poor people who are dispossessed and dislocated and lost everything. And they can be a human disaster in progress. So absorbing them is okay. The only thing you have to make sure that they are not infiltrated by the fanatics and by the Islamic State or by Iran or by so and so.
Okay. And what are some of the ways in which you are trying to work with humanity in general these days? I know that you're very concerned with the issue of world hunger, and you've done quite a lot on that issue. Can you tell me about some of the initiatives that you have gotten behind recently?
Well, as far as world hunger, I can claim that I was an eyewitness of this in Africa, especially in East Africa. I cannot claim very good experience with West Africa. But in East Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, even Namibia, and this part was Ethiopia, I can claim that I have enough knowledge to have seen the beginning of disasters there, not only because of the drought, but because of the exploitation and mainly the political corruption too. Okay. So I became interested in hunger during my time of service in East Africa.
Okay.
And do I do this now? Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to join the efforts recently. But this goes back maybe 25 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what can be done in that part of the world, in East Africa, to make the land more arable, I guess is the word? How do you cause crops to be raised there and livestock to be bred? Is there anything that an ordinary person here in Midwestern United States could do other than contribute money? Is there any technological breakthroughs that need to happen?
Actually, your question has the answers to the technological expertise definitely has importance there, because once the colonists had pulled out of these areas, they left a vacuum that could not be filled with the locals. And they had, of course, experts in everything at the time. But experts were not doing this thing to help the people of East Africa, but they were doing the thing to help themselves.
Right.
And as a collateral, the people of East Africa benefited. And now there are no experts there. I mean, people are not so educated. So education is number one, no doubt about that. Democracy is number two, because what happened is one military coup succeeds. A preceding military system, and
Right.
so forth. And those people steal the wealth. Unfortunately, there's a lot of corruption there. And what can we do other than giving money and the expertise? I think the Peace Corps did a lot of work. The young people, young American people, did a lot of work in these areas, not only to improve the conditions of the developing parts of East Africa, but to help in the health issues too, like AIDS and hepatitis C and all that.
Okay. Now, do you get involved in the American political scene as much as you get involved in the international political scene? And are there certain issues that are particularly near to your heart as far as domestic politics are concerned?
I consider myself an independent, nonpartisan guy. When I began here, I began as a Democrat, and then I lost really my interest in being a Democrat. And I don't see a big difference now between the two parties.
No, there's the stupid and evil party and the evil and stupid party.
You have it. I could not say it better.
And bipartisanship is when the two parties get together to do something really stupid and evil.
I completely second that.
So have you chosen a favorite candidate in the upcoming presidential race, or are you staying neutral?
I'm exploring my way. For sure, I will not vote for Mrs. Clinton, and I will not vote for the other candidate from the socialist. What's his name?
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders. I will not vote for him. He may be a nice guy, but he's not my taste of a model of a leader. I know that the vice president may run. I will not vote for him either. So unfortunately, I don't have many choices. You know, I like Carson's ideas. I wish he would be more forceful. I wish he would be more assertive. But Fiorina is fine.
Okay.
But I'd rather. Marco Rubio is a person that I feel the most prepared. Marco.
Okay.
And I think but I don't think he's electable. I admire him, but I don't think he's electable.
Okay. And on a totally different subject, are you working on any really interesting art projects at the moment?
A lot of them. As
Good.
a matter of fact, I want to use this Forum Your program to help me with finding a place downtown Iowa City. I'm working with Leslie Nolte
Okay.
of the Nolte Academy in order to make a big mural downtown.
Oh my gosh. Well, now that is something we can end the show on, because I can just end by telling all of our viewers to please, if you can think of a place and a way for Dr. Elkadi to realize this mural in downtown Iowa City, please get in touch with him, get in touch with the show. And that is it for now. Thank you so much, Dr. Hani Elkadi, for coming on this show. And thank you all.
Thank you.